Hi, my name is Ashley Mickelson, and I will be answering a few questions today. I have 4 questions. Two of them I'm going to be answering together, and the other 2 I will be doing separately. So the first one is describe the special education teacher's roles in supporting learning, improving planning and practice, as well as upholding professional expectations and ethics, and collaboratively advancing the profession, as well as explain the general education teacher's roles in supporting learning, improving planning and practice, upholding professional expectations and ethics, as well as collaboratively advancing the profession. So first and foremost, both roles play a huge aspect into the student's development and success in the school. You have the general education teacher that typically tends to be the first line of defense when it comes to a student and being able to identify whether the student needs the additional support to be able to be successful and have a healthy journey in their academic lives. And then you have the special education teacher that comes into play to where they are the ones that are sometimes the advocate and responsible for kind of guiding this student along the path as they grow and develop. With that being said, the special education teacher is responsible for developing individualized education programs, IEPs, for each student. They tend to plan these activities that are specific to each student's abilities and capabilities. They teach and mentor students sometimes in a class, sometimes in small groups, or even one-on-one as appropriate. They tend to implement these IEPs, assess students' performance, and track their progress appropriately. And then you have the general education teacher that is responsible for modifying assignments accordingly, meeting accommodations, whether that's providing like wiggle seats, and just being able to help that student feel comfortable and confident in the classroom setting so that they can have that full model experience that they're entitled to and that they deserve. Both roles, in my opinion, should demonstrate a high standard of honesty, integrity, ethical conduct, confidentiality when they're interacting with students, families, colleagues, and the public. And then collaboration between general education teachers as well as the special education teachers, as well as support staff, paraprofessionals, etc. It's necessary to be able to support that student's learning towards measurable outcomes and to be able to facilitate the student's social and emotional well-being just across all of the school's environments and instructional settings. Now, when it comes to dispositions that I feel that I currently possess to help me be successful as a teacher, there are a few that come to my mind. At full disclosure, I am a first-year teacher right now. I teach 8th grade ELA. So I currently feel that I like to have an open classroom in my classroom, so it's transparency, it's going to be honesty. I encourage questions, and I'm honest. I try to be reliable and consistent with my students. If I don't know the answer to something, I will tell them I don't. I'll tell them let's parking lot that, and then I find the answer for them, and then I'll follow up with them either later in the day if I see them again for one of my other classes, or the next day accordingly. Or if I know something's coming up in the lesson we're going to be teaching the next day or later on, I tend to parking lot them and tell them, you hold on to this sticky note. Let's see if you can find the answer to your question. And then once we go through the lesson, I'll tell them, hey, did you find the answer? And I kind of create that sense of trust that they are going to be able to have in me. I also love to encourage curiosity. So if a student asks me a question or they're like, hey, this doesn't make sense, I'm thinking this, I tell them why. And we kind of keep that game of why, like you convinced me this. And even when it comes to like, hey, I want to change my seat, and I look at them and go, okay, make your argument, make your case, tell me why. I encourage that healthy curiosity, the healthy communication, collaboration, and debate even, because they have to be able to explain and make their case for things. And I'm always open to new ideas and new avenues and stuff. I know I don't hold the answers to everything. I'm not perfect. I'm new into this. So I'm open to all sorts of tips, tricks, and techniques. So I have that open mind. The one thing that I can think of like right off the top of my head as a first-year teacher teaching right now for the last 30 odd days, is I need to self-reflect better on myself. I am my own worst critic. I'm overly harsh. So I need to be a little bit more realistic in my own self-feedback and analysis on how I'm doing and what I'm doing. I tend to not be fair on myself. So I need to be able to do that because I want to encourage my students to be fair on themselves, and I got to be able to mimic that and role model that. Now, in regards to the effects of personal biases and how they have expectations of teachers that we have for our students and how these biases affect their relationships with students and their families. First and foremost, I'm just going to come out and say it. I think biases need to not exist when it comes to students. However, that's unrealistic. They're out there. In my personal opinion, I do think that having a bias will have a dramatic and drastic effect on students, and having unrealistic expectations can really hinder a student or even a class as a whole. We need to be able to understand that, as well as we are all different teacher to teacher, that these students are also different as well. Not always where we're going to gel, and we're going to have to find that balance, and it's going to take time. And if a student does struggle, we need to not focus on that the fact that they are struggling. We need to focus on the why and come to a solution to help this person kind of reach a goal with them. And if you have biases that you expect this student, because they did great and did A's all last year, that they're going to have to get A's this year and it's going to be easy to teach them, well, that's not good, because that doesn't mean your job should be easier. That means you should be encouraging their mind more. So if you can't have biases, it's not doable. It's not workable. Should we have expectations? Absolutely. Expectations on behavior, expectations on when homework is due, how it's due, and certain things in that sense. But we shouldn't have expectations that a student should only get A's, or, because they got A's last year, they absolutely should get them this year. That's just not appropriate. So if we're going to have expectations, they need to be realistic, healthy, and achievable. Can you raise the bar a little bit higher to push and drive a student? Especially as an 8th grade teacher, I have to prepare these kids for high school. So I have to increase the standards so that they can transition more effectively and be set for success. But I can't be too harsh that I deflate their confidence to where they feel like they're not going to be successful. It's a balancing act. That is what I have today. I thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful evening.